Blundering Bros, because our stupidity is what unites us. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Blundering Bros, Audacious Attacks and Dubious Defenses. The year is 2025. Every half-decent opening is known to be equal, 0.00, but we won't let that stop us. We have a right to play a game of chess against our fellow humans, until the AI completely takes over at least, and look like complete fools. For this first episode, we will have a look at the mighty King's Gambit. And not just the King's Gambit, the Kieseritzky Gambit. And not just the Kieseritzky Gambit, but the Rice Gambit of this variation. So the starting position is e4, e5, f4, and unlike the Queen's Gambit, where white can more or less win the pawn back by force if he wishes to, it really is a sacrifice and a blunderful opening. For this video, we won't get into all the details, but we have a feeling that there will be future episodes of the King's Gambit, where we could have a look at some of the many alternatives for both sides. So black accepts white's gift and takes back on f4. Now white plays knight to f3 in the Kieseritzky Gambit, while 3 bishop c4 is another, perhaps better option for white, as 3 g5 would look a bit silly now with the white knight not committed to f3 yet. After 3 knight f3, g5 is very reasonable, however, and white already needs to worry about g4, attacking the knight. Way back in the day, white would just ignore all this and sacrifice everything and mate the opponent. But with modern analysis, things aren't so easy, and white will probably get himself into too much trouble there. So for the Kieseritzky Gambit, white plays 4h4, followed by knight e5 after g4. Another option is knight g5, with the intent of sacking the knight on f7 after h6. That line is called the Allgaier Gambit, and has a dubious reputation, although as we will see in the video, the Rice Gambit might be on just a whole different level of dubiousness. It is reached after knight f6, bishop c4, d5, e takes d5, bishop d6. Now the normal move would be d4 as far as this variation can be called normal, but if things aren't dubious enough for you just yet, you can offer your opponent some rice with 8 castles short. The story behind the gambit is quite fascinating, as it's named after a successful businessman and president of the Manhattan Chess Club, Isaac Rice. He discovered the variation in 1895 and found it so interesting that he sponsored tournaments where it was the starting position of each game, with top participants like Chigorin and world champion Lasker, who even wrote a book about it. Mr. Rice even formed the Rice Gambit Association in 1904, which analyzed the line and published their work. As described on chesshistory.com, he was so impressed with his success that he immediately interested a number of the prominent masters in the move, which was easy enough to do because he had a lot of money. For several years, the gambit was subjected to extensive analysis by the leading American masters. We will have a look at a consultation game with the line, containing quite a few blunders from both sides. After 8 castles, black takes on e5, accepting the rice, but perhaps the counterintuitive knight bd7 is even stronger. The point becomes clear after, for example, knight takes d7, bishop takes d7, d4, knight h5 as black's attack is building. Queen takes h4, g3, and queen h2 are some moves that are next on the agenda. Alternatively, 9d4, knight takes e5, queen e1, bishop c5 check, king h1, knight e4 doesn't look too appetizing either. In the game, black blunders with 10 g3, while knight h5 or bishop f5 would have maintained the advantage. The game could have led to a perpetual at this point with best play, but white plays knight d2 instead of the interesting bishop takes f4, when black's best option is to take and go for a perpetual with bishop e3 check. Knight f2 check, and knight g4 check. The game continues with lovely coffeehouse moves and positions. And the next big blunder comes when white goes for 24 knight d4. Black doesn't go for 25 rook d5, however, which would have been fascinating. For example, e7, queen h5, not only attacking the f7 pawn but also threatening mate on d1. Play might continue bishop d2, queen takes f7, knight takes c6, rook takes a5, knight d8 check, king b6, knight takes f7, knight takes d2. And while we've had some fun, the material will probably bring home the bacon for black in the end. The tables are turned completely, however, in the game, and white finishes it off quite nicely. What do you think? Do you have any opening as dubious as the Rice Gambit in your repertoire? If you had a ridiculous amount of money in the pre-computer age, what variation would you let the world's finest chess minds work on? Please let us know in the comments down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe.